Yo, it's Guido coming at you with the Tactics Talk, and I got an interesting one here for you guys. Anyway, welcome back to World of Tanks, and we have Treeburst from Clan Senpai's in his AMX M451. We've got two videos here, and I'm gonna talk about a couple things. Kind of a wide-ranging video for today. We're gonna watch Treeburst play this. He put this on the forum and put my name on the title of it and said, Guido, a couple replays for review. Says, saw on your YouTube channel you've been pulling replays off the forum, so here are a couple of for you to peruse. One thing about that, everybody, if somebody puts on the forum and posts their replay and says, hey, can you take a look at it, then I will use it and potentially put it on the channel and make a video for it. I do not just pull replays from people or go trolling the replay thing. So if I'm going to use your replay, then I'm going to either get your permission or you will have already put it out into the public venue. So that's just a small aside. He put two on there. One's the M451. The other one is the LHMTV. So a heavy tank and a light tank. Very interesting. And we're gonna take a look. And I'm gonna analyze the replay. I'm gonna talk about things that I think about or things that I thought could go better or differently. He says heavy on a city map. Honestly, with a full team, it probably would have been ideal. I'm not really sure what that means. I guess. So Treeburst, from what he says here and from what I remember in a lot of his posts, he's not a big fan of bad teams, which I don't think anybody is. And to me, it verges a little bit on the side of blaming the team. Maybe I'm getting that wrong. I'm just going to say that, and it's going to be important to what I'm going to talk about in just a minute. But the tank's well suited to the map. I would agree. It's a good map for the tank, especially over on the east side in the city. Something about a random team, but at least Wargaming didn't half arse it this time. Arse is what I added. It's edited. I don't know what he actually said. I'm assuming it's arsed or asked. Again, he's going to have to explain to us. I'm not 100% sure what he's saying there, other than the idea that in a random battle I have bad teammates. Okay, got it. On the second one, this is the LHMTV. First thing he says is bad tank. I disagree wholeheartedly. I think the LHMTV is a great tank. Bad map, we'll talk about it. It's a different map. It's Serene Coast. It's a hard one to use a light tank on. I would agree with that 100%. Bad random team. My assumption is he's running XVM, or maybe he looked at it otherwise, or he's just talking. I guess those are a lot of assumptions, is it? Let me say it this way. I don't know if he's using XVM, if he's looking at stats afterward, or he's just looking at the results and saying it's a bad team. He may have to expand on that. I think if you're using XVM, you're kind of hurting your mental state a little bit on how things start, but that's probably a small thing. And if you can get over it and mitigate it, that's fine. There's a difference between getting into a game and getting bummed out that you have a bad team because a bunch of colors aren't going your way, and objectively looking at the end of the battle and saying, well, I had a bad team based on stats. As long as you don't let it get into your head and you continue to play, then it's not a problem really either way. He's got good stats and is a good player, so there you have it. He would have to expand on that. Let's see. Decided to try to light the TD in the enemy base. I watched the replay, and maybe if I had decided to try and light the TD in the enemy base, my team might have managed to cap, ? We'll get to that. I still kind of doubt it for the same reason I doubted it during the game. The enemy team had crushed the heavy line, and 3 of the tanks that did the crushing had not been spotted moving towards their base. I surmised that they were flexing back to the cap, which they were. So we'll get to that one when we get there. All right, so asking for, I wouldn't say necessarily help. I think he just wants another critical eye on it, and maybe we can then have a discussion about a lot of these things. The other part of this that I wanted to bring up, because one of the larger CCs on NA, recently, Klaus put a video out where he did a bit of a send-up of people who do things like this, where they'll look at their replay or somebody else's and talk about in their replays things that they were thinking as they did it, and in replays like this, with the idea, the send-up was that, hindsight 2020, you can make a video and act like you know everything that's going on. And that's absolutely true. You can do that. And the only reason I bring it up is, it was funny, by the way. I had a laugh. It was good stuff. But it does talk a little bit, and this kind of thing as well are connected in how it is that you go about trying to get better at anything in life, and in particular, a silly pixel tank game that we like to play. And the point is that when you look at a replay, you do try to debrief and look at it to 100% or to the best that you can do. And there's going to be multiple opinions about that. which is good because then you can learn multiple ways to potentially go about a certain situation that you see. And the only way you're ever going to get better at something is to critically analyze how you did. That's so incredibly important. So yeah, there are people who are going to get in there and dig through replays and go, you should have done this, should have done this, should have done this. With the idea that you're trying to get better, not necessarily the idea that you're trying to shine your own ass and tell everybody how good you are. Now, I've done that. I have plenty of videos where I had a really good game and I went through and I said, hey, here's the decisions I made. But what I also try to do is talk about mistakes I made, because there's not a single video that I've done or replay or game that I've played where everything went perfectly. And sometimes it's harder to break out mistakes in good games because you have that mindset of, oh, I did 7,000 damage. There's just not another thing I could have done in that game. I think that's completely untrue. And it's a mindset of how you go about looking at your own progression and improvement. So those things are all kind of mixed up together. I told you it was going to be a wide-ranging discussion for today, and I'm curious what people think, because it's one thing I say is it is possible, and stick with me, it is possible to win every game you play. It is highly improbable. And that improbability can be high enough that it basically, for all intents and purposes in the real world, is impossible. But on a theoretical level and the level of debrief and learning, which doesn't necessarily have to live in the real world, we can debrief everything you did to 100% and then make it possible in that theoretical realm to win every battle. And you might go, well, that exercise is useless, but it's not. It's not useless. That's how you improve incrementally in small ways in the real world. That's why you look at it. And the reason I know this works is because I spent a whole career doing that very thing with that exact same concept on improving every time we flew and debriefing every sortie we ever flew and trying to find the mistakes. And it's not a case of you wash your hands, all right, that mistake's fixed, I'll never do that again, because you're human and you probably will do it again. Or another very similar but slightly different situation will come up and you'll make the same mistake because you didn't quite analyze it right. It's a process of constant learning. And it really is kind of a mindset of a way to go around it. And I know based on talking on the forums, talking to people in the comments section down below on my videos, that not everybody necessarily believes that. But I will tell you that it's true, and all of the people who are the very best at things, whatever that thing is, uses that exact same kind of mindset. I promise you, if they are at the top of their game, that basic mindset of I intend to look at everything I do and learn from it objectively with the idea that I can perfect it even though I know I never will, that's how everyone who is wildly successful goes after it. And even if you are not wildly successful, you're just successful, that still works. Whatever your ceiling is and whatever it is that you're doing, right? I'm not going to be the greatest World of Tanks player. As much as I apply that, I'm probably not going to be, let's call it that, probably not going to be the world's greatest World of Tank player. But I can continue to improve by using that mindset, and every level of skill can do that as well. Anyway, that being said, so for Treeburst on this, if he's still with me and his eyes haven't glazed over, let's go ahead and get going here. That's how I'm then going to look at this replay, okay? And he does some pretty good damage here. Now let's talk specifics on Kharkov, because where he chooses to go, I hate. And I never go there. And I'm going to tell you why I never go there. He's going to go over to the wheel. And the wheel is where people go to play punchy face and get themselves isolated to where they really can't do anything else in the game, in my opinion. I have seen people push through, and if you get a good push and have a good team, but the problem is it's just too hard to do so because both sides have very good defensive, fairly long-range sniping positions, which is what's appealing to a lot of people. But they've also got TD positions behind it, backing it up, and it makes it very, very difficult to push in. So I'm going to let this develop to where we go right to about here. And we can look at the deployment. Now, he's got a ton of tanks over on the west side. really the strength of the team is over there. Even though some of their good tanks are in the town, they're kind of split up and unsupportive of each other. The Emil and the T10 cannot support the Lurva, the Carnarvon, and Treeburst's M4. The 120, so these four are really kind of the strongest striking force they've got, really, other than all those mediums and TDs. If they can get their act together over there, it would be really good. This is pubs, so you can't really expect that kind of thing. It's hard to go to a flank in pubs and go, all right, I'm just going to hold this flank and hopefully my team takes over. That it can happen, but you have no reasonable expectation at the beginning of the fight, which goes back to what Treeburst's talking about having a bad team. When you start, you just have to assume nobody's going to do anything good for you. Not because you hate them, not because it's 1v30, not because people are meat shields, screw everyone else other than me, although there are those people with that mindset, but because that's just the reality of the situation. You have to assume nobody's going to help you until proven otherwise. So I try to, the reason I'm saying all that is I try to go to places. I fail too, reference back to what I talked about earlier. I try to go to places where I can be a little bit more flexible and get to the places I'm needed to be. And for me, Treeburst on this one, that's where the Emil and the T10 are. There's just more flexibility in that more central part of the map. I just don't like this side because you have no way to push in. If they don't send anybody, then great. You just made a genius flanking move. But if they send 3 or 4, even 2, and they have a TD back there, and now we're playing punchy face, the time problem of World of Tanks starts to come in, especially if your team over on the west side is losing hit points and you're not doing much over here. I just feel like that east central position where the Emil and the T10 is provides more opportunity to move forward because you're already a little bit closer and there's a few more avenues to do so. It's just, for me, a better initial position. All right, so we're going to come in here, and now we're going to start playing punchy face, and we've got to kind of watch what the rest of the team is doing and how everything's going. So clearly we've been lit. More than likely somebody back there takes a blind shot. I think that's probably a pretty good idea. I don't know if I really don't know if I would tempt people to shoot me when I'm not reloaded. I see this happen, and I do it myself. Unless you're trying to spot somebody or see what's going on, there's really no reason to even let him have another shot on you coming in there, or let anybody back there have a shot on you. So we're just kind of daring him to shoot our strong turret. All right, so this guy comes around. Unfortunately, it's the Emil 2, no surprise, and a fairly strong 50 TP who's got a pretty good turret. Now the Carnarvon, he's an echelon, but he's way too far out, so he takes a big hit. The Emil 2 are really not going to pen. This is a nice shot, by the way. I don't know if you guys noticed what he did right there, but the Emil was kind of jacked up on the rocks, on the rubble, and he just went right at the top part of the hole, and it dropped right in, right exactly where he wanted it to go. Not an easy shot from an RNG standpoint, but also a heads up play on his part, because that part of the tank that he knew was weak was exposed. So that was well done. And again, we're sort of just daring people to shoot us. This 50 TP is probably looking to shoot at your turret as well, because this tank, we get a ricochet, this tank has also got some pretty good weak spot turrets. That back one especially is nice and tall and relatively easy to hit. I say relatively, they're pretty far away, so all these are going to be pixel sniping. So this guy comes around. Looks like he maybe wanted to try to get into his hole, but he sneaks back. All right, so now we know, this is interesting. Now we know it's the JP2 because we have the little indicator. Make sure you have that turned on, folks. It's in your settings. It's the damage indicator, I believe, advanced or whatever it is. Make sure you've got the one that gives the direction and tells you what it was. So that's SA that we have now. They only have one of those, so the JP2 is in there. The thing he didn't do, he did it a little bit, but it didn't look like he tried to line it up. If you very carefully line up so that, I'm going to point at the screen, but you see the top line that's vertical? It's hard to see right there. I'll put it in the white. It's a very slight white line. It's basically on the pipper right now. Line that up with exactly with the line of the direction indicator, and that's the direction it came from. It looks like you're looking slightly right to where I thought it was. Yeah, you're looking right there. I think if you line it up a little bit more carefully, you'd have found he was actually in this area right here. But then we continue to get more guys. Looks like maybe you're going after the weak spot on the top there. JP2 takes another shot. You'll notice he's moving back and forth, which is trying to spoil the aim against that little hatch up there. We've lost a tank over on the west side, and it looks like our team's not very interested in being offensive over on the west side. And there's a big stack of guys in the middle. There's a big stack of guys in the middle. The Lurva actually made it up there, very interestingly. And we've got the JP2 back there, and we're still kind of hanging out. The Lurva, he makes some misplays here. There we go. At least he lit that guy. That was nice. Gets another shot into him. It looked pretty good. This guy uses the reload time that Treeburst has to get out and take a shot at the Lurva, and then, no kidding, gets away, and the JP2 backs out. The Emil has flexed over to the corner, and we're looking to get a shot into this guy's hatch. We're down 2 tanks now. The Carnarvon died. The 50 TP's rocking back and forth. And to me, Treeburst, this is a great example of why I just don't like this spot. And we get hit right there by the JP2, who's managed to come back around in the bushes. Nice little shot right there into where, looks like it got into the superstructure, into the hole. And then we realize, this is great realization that this is an untenable position and they're coming at us. Now, this is why people go to that corner, because if they can win it, then they can fold back around just like this. So we're going to have to make a runner and head all the way back here. And we're in pretty bad trouble right now. We're down 4-0. It looks like Treeburst, I don't know if you either decided you wanted to hold right here, or maybe you thought I wasn't going to get far enough away, because it was still quite a drive to get around the corner. I may have tried to keep going myself just to get around behind this rubble here, but we kind of post up here for a moment. And then we got guys coming around. It's the double-barreled premium version. We're down 5-1. And now we're going to back out, which I think is where I would have gone anyway, but it looked to me like he thought he was going to come around the corner. He may very well have. I mean, he didn't in reality, but I think he had the time to. Yeah, I would be cutting back here as fast as possible to get behind this rubble right here. And this game from here is going to be very difficult to come back from. We're down 6-1. Our strength over on the other side didn't do much for us. It looks like, based on how many people they invested in town, had our west side been good and aggressive, they might have been able to gobble those guys up pretty quickly. Certainly would have taken damage doing so, but I hate that. I try not to use that word. It's a derogatory term for pub players, so I apologize. I don't like using it. But pub players, without the derogatory part of it, are unlikely to wolfpack in that situation and try to take on a few higher tier mediums with their lower tier mediums, because they're not interested in taking any more damage than they have to. And that goes back to my discussion earlier about whether you can trust a pub player to make those kinds of moves without organized play in a caller. It's very rare that happens. It happens, but it is very rare. I think for my money, I would have gone to the middle on this, and you probably would have had a little bit more luck with you and the T10 and the Mill 2 together. But clearly, they would have folded around on the wagon wheel there and probably presented issues for you in the near future anyway. But at least you'd be together with these guys. I'm not saying that would have been a winning move necessarily on this map based on everything else that went on. By the way, you missed a shot on the standard B. It was actually out in the open right there. So we're going to back up, turn around, and get out of here. I think maybe you're trying to get back to where your TDs are, which is a good idea. The problem is there's so much open ground right here. You've got to cover to do so. If you were going to, you might have wanted to just cut straight across, but you got lit pretty immediately, and all of a sudden we got dudes behind us. So the 50 TP is taking a shot. We get hit by that dude. Looks like you cover up, and then you sort of cover up again, and then we hit the red line, and we're bumming now. I might have just taken that snapshot on the way. You were headed for cover anyway. Thank goodness he missed right there. Takes a while to kind of get situated and turn around and take a shot. That guy gets away, get a nice little zoomed in shot. I'll take a shot on him. There we go. Nicely done. We got 437 off of him. And from here, it's going to be very difficult to win this game. You're stuck in a corner. They have complete map control. The Centurion 1 gets in the backfield, but there's enough of them that he's simply not going to be able to deal with all of them. Nice shot into the KV4. I would have prioritized that guy. From here, it gets a little dicey as far as who you're going after. You get a bit of a bummer on Emil because he's right out in the open. That building's in the way. I might have just knocked that building down, but Oh, yeah. I'm sure you were like, oh, crap, he cut just when I was about to get a nice free clear shot. You do get another one on him, but it's not enough for a kill. So he keeps on trucking. 409, do we just low roll? Would have taken a huge high roll. I don't know if you have that much damage now. Probably not. 409 is a slight high roll. I think I would have peeked out and tried to knock down that, take that KV4 out. At this point, it's just sort of prioritizing, yeah. And you kind of go for the 703, but I think you had the KV4 and just take that gun out of the game. Again, not something that would have necessarily won the game, but just prioritization of who you're going to shoot at. He gets a shot into the side of your tank, unfortunately. But it doesn't take you long to figure him out, and down he goes anyway. So it was just one more shot. But you may have survived, or you may have saved yourself that one hit from him by taking him out first instead of chasing the 703. This is the point of the game where taking out guns is the priority, provided you are not overexposing and losing a bunch of hit points to do so. And now we're kind of bumming. One thing that's going to work against Treeburst here is this thing has a massive turret, so every time he backs up from this little bit of cover, he's eventually he'll expose the hole. Stupid thing. Eventually he'll expose the hole, but the turret comes around first, and it's just a great big flat turret that's easy to see. Nice shot into the 702, and down he goes. Those are the kind of things that make you feel good. Like, all right, we're working it. See if we can get some more near deads, and we knock a couple, 2-3 of them near deads down, and we're not bad. The problem is, I was a little behind the guy. Needed a little lead fire right there. The problem with that is, and you'll see this a lot, you get a enemy force kind of stuck in a corner, and they are massed together, but once they all start getting lit, they may kill a couple of near deads, but the map position and map control is so poor, the advantage still lies with the attacker. It becomes very difficult to sort these guys out. Standard B. That is a bummer. Needed that hit for sure. Now there's 3 of them there. We got to watch, yeah. That was a good priority move right there, but oh, that sucked. Just a little bit off to the right, shot-wise. That did not work out well. I might have continued working on that Emil too, but he died anyway, so good on you. Oh, here comes a 703. Can we knock this guy down? If he comes up, maybe we can kill this dude. Ah. And you just got to take the shots as they present themselves, but I thought there was a couple in there. That one maybe not so much. There we go. As far as the aim goes, he was really angled. But that's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking on that. You're just trying to get shots as you're reloaded. If anyone presents something, there's another good shot there that just ricochets. And there's the big fat end of your tank sticking out from the cover. He had all kinds of shots on you. I'm very surprised actually that 50 TP didn't just drive in and start taking you down, but that's pretty typical. We bounce that. Looks like we get a little turret twitch, maybe even. Yeah, it looks like we go away there for a minute. I didn't see any typing, so I don't know if that was crazy right there. I didn't see any typing, so I don't know if that was actually a glitch. I've seen a bunch of those lately, actually, with my gameplay, World of Tanks wise. Just no kidding. The game will freeze, and then it'll jump forward. It'll sit there for 1001, 1000, sometimes like 3 seconds or so, and then it'll jump forward and start going again. I've had a couple other CCs say that the same thing is happening to them. 4,000 damage, 4,710, blocked 1,045. So I don't really see anything in there where I would go, hey, Treeburst, and I think he would agree with this, and most people would. I don't really see anything in there where I would say, well, if you'd have done this, then you probably would have pulled out a win. There were very small nitnoid things, some shot selection things. Some of it's just RNG that you have to deal with. Happens to everybody. The only thing I would say is I didn't love the initial position. I just feel like that is not a initiative position unless you've got a good fort. If I had 3 tier 9 tanks in a platoon, I think that's a pretty good place to go because you can all pile around the corner and go start beating people up. As a solo pub, in a solo pub match, I just feel like that's a very not necessarily passive, but it can be passive, but kind of a let it happen position initially. I thought your reposition out of there was timely. It was definitely time to go, and you ended up with 4,000 damage. Another option may have been to go over to the west side and help the mediums push, but you can't know that at the start, and with what you had and with the map, you went to the right side of the map, I think. I just like that center position a lot better for being much more flexible. And maybe between you and the mill and the T10, all tier 9s, I think it was the mill 2 that was in there, right? Yeah. you might have been able to work on the guys in the middle a bit better, and at least you would have had guns together. You did have 4 over there. You had the Carnarvon, the Low, the Lurva, yourself, and the WZ, but that is just such a hard area to push over in the east. So those are my thoughts on that one, man. Let me know. I'll go ahead and post this on your thread there, and when I post this on my channel as well. Let me know what you think there. We'll go on to the LHM TV. So here's the second game that he sent. This time in a scout tank. He says it's a bad tank. You know, we can agree to disagree. I love the LHM TV. It isn't easy to use. It's more of a passive. It's more of a pure scout. He is in a all tier 8 though, so this time not top tier, or maybe he is top tier. I guess everyone's top tier, right? For light tank scouts, and really, it kind of goes back to the other video that I saw, the other replay. You gotta love that. Oh, I meant to put that on Miserable Monday. I wanted to put a copy of that. Wasn't that fantastic? What a I have to admit, even though it is an ally, I'm not that bummed that a wheeled tank tipped over and blew up. I really am not. This is an aggressive line for a light tank, and if you can get to this bush, it's pretty awesome. And I thought you were going to jam on the brakes and stick in this bush, but you don't have binocs. Still, though, you've got a pretty good view of everything that's going on. It's a slightly dangerous spot because you've got wheeled tanks. They've still got a 6x6 on their side, the even 90 and the 12T. There's a lot of light tanks. Can be raging around and come up and over and light you right there. Let's just look at the blowed up. That's good stuff, isn't it? But what you did is go forward, and this is not something I've done. Looks like maybe there's potentially turning that into cover, and then we continue go, and man, this is super aggressive. And the 6x6 does that, but he doesn't see us. No, yes, he does, sorry. He does see us. I forgot about that. We're going to back out. There's no artillery, so a little bit of this is safer than it might otherwise be. I thought maybe you were a little early going back into that. There was just nobody to take shots. And now we're in. I wish you could tell, actually, if you were in cover. This, I'll be honest, I am not sure what the cover hitbox looks like on trees that are down like that. It looks like maybe you know, and this is cover. So there you go, very interesting. These have very good camo, so we're just hanging out right here in the middle. But for this replay, it's a little bit like the one before. The initial positioning and what's the plan, and look at this IS-3A. This is unreal. So much of this in this game right now. Just crazy gameplay. The 6x6 is raging around. He should have actually tumbled. See how he come over and just skidded to a stop and didn't fall over? That was crazy. The Su-101 and the even 90 are up in the northeast, and then there's a bit of a push on the peninsula. I think positioning-wise, this is not a bad position early, but I was a little bit curious why we sort of kept pushing into these guys. We do find the Scorpion G, although I don't know if that's your spot. That may be the guys that are coming down from the northeast. Sorry, northwest. I think I called it northeast. The Udez, the 101, and the even 90. They have a pretty good push, and it looks like maybe their main force then is on the peninsula. When we stop here, we're almost 2 minutes into it, and we look at that and go, well, geez, we're down 2 guys. The Lurva died. They lost a defender. That's good, but we're really kind of weak over on the peninsula. And we've got guys scattered around. They got the Super Pershing. He's lagging the fight way in the back over at F1-2 border. Got a couple TDs sitting in the back with nothing to shoot. The IS-3A is wandering around the middle. So how do we leverage all of this mess and try to do something? Well, this map is difficult with light tanks anyway. Find this guy, man. There you go. I thought that was a decent chance to take. Nicely done. That guy's just about dead. I don't know why we're on HE, but I guess you were worried about the armor. That goes in. I don't know if that actually hit him. Then we got the Scorpion G. The ELC jumps all over him. And we're looking over here. Man, I would have shot that Udez 14.5. And then we get lit. And that's that thing I was talking about. Light tanks raging around the middle. Those are fun bushes to be in, and they can often do things like you just did. But eventually somebody's going to come raging around this area and see us. So I think I would have taken a shot on that 14.5. And things are not looking bad here other than we've lost a lot of tanks. We get a shot and do a pretty good job with the HE. Now we're out of HE. We take that shot. He must be on a reload. And I don't know why we stopped. I definitely would not have stopped right in front of a bat chat. I would have kept moving. That was really nice. Tried to track him, didn't work. And then the Su-100 comes in. get a half a ram thing going on, spun around, and we get rid of their 12T. And now it's decision time because the game is 4-4, but that whole southeastern part of the map is getting obliterated. Your team isn't really in a great position to leverage getting to the cap. At this point, it's a bit of a 50-50 thing. You mentioned I probably should have gone and helped find the WZ. I think maybe that, in hindsight, that would have been the best move. Although I don't advocate going to their cap and trying to cap out. That may have been your best move in this case because they're already all over your cap. And this LHM TV and what's back there is going to have a hard time dealing with it. And the problem is, I think we got our own team kind of going the wrong way. So they split up a little bit and aren't going all together. So we wander into the middle, looking for shots, trying to stay away from getting lit. Looking at this guy. Here comes this. All right, very nice. And that's what I love about the LHM TV. It can do things like that. Little assassin strikes. Coming around here looking for a shot. And it's at this point right here. So I thought it was a bit of a crapshoot before, but only about a minute later or so, when you look down at the mini-map, it's cap or lose this game. And I hate that. Normally I would always advocate going back to your cap and trying to deal with it, but there's so many tanks back there. You're going to have a hard time beating a Lynx and an ELC even 90 with your LHM TV. At this point, it's more of a Hail Mary, getting a bit desperate. Yeah, like you said, swing back to the cap. Try to dig out the WZ, get him lit. That was a bummer that you missed there. Try to dig out the WZ and see if you can't sort out a win. Trying to get a sneaky cheeky on the light tank right there, and then we get lit, and it's time to get out of there. And they've basically, somebody reacted pretty quickly and took a shot at you right there. And even now, yeah, let's go ahead and try to jump on cap. That's really our only hope. And they're going to need a light on the WZ. So we're going to come in here and we bail out. So you'll have to let us know down below why you decided against that. Going to be very, very difficult for you to get in here and get any kind of traction on defending the cap. The Su-130 is still sitting back there, and now he's dead. And dealing with this ELC even 90 and their 6x6 is probably not going to happen. So it looks like we bail out of that. And at this point, we're into damage farming zone right now. We're unlikely to win. Like you said, some of their guys went back. That was always going to be a danger and something you had to deal with. Try to shoot into the hatch of the 100-01. Good essay on what the weak spot is. Going to be a difficult shot for you. You get a little stuck on that. And then we get charged by this guy. I would have auto-aimed this guy, be honest. I would have just auto-aimed and tried to circle him. Survive as many shots as possible, and then he's going to get to his reload. Yeah, sometimes I get into a little finger feck myself, so... Yeah, probably if you had to do it again, you'd have auto-aimed him and just started circling. We're going to try to get away. Here comes the 6x6. Oh, he's just going to come at us, isn't he? Nope, actually he's going after the IS-3A. The ELC even 90 will be reloaded here pretty soon, but we come in here. Oh, we missed the run-in shot. That's a bummer. He takes a shot on the IS-3, and then he notices you, and that's no good. That's no bueno. Oh, boy. And gets shot down by the 6x6. And then the guys who went to the cap got cleaned up because the smart team that they sent back a good number. In fact, most of their tanks, it looks like, were all headed back to cap because they probably saw what we were talking about and saw that really the only way for the green team, you guys, to win was to do a fast cap. So they all said, well, let's just make sure that doesn't happen. And that's what they did. They went back and prevented the fast cap. They walked through your peninsula, your weak peninsula guys, fast enough that they were able to just simply all fold back and take the few guys that lived. And it wasn't a case of you were organized pushing to their cap. It was just a couple random guys wandering through the middle of the map who got close to cap. You know, there never really was a push up there, man. So it's another game where I can't sit there and say, well, had you done X, Y, or Z, you would have won. I did talk about a couple things. Mechanical-wise, especially taking on the ELC, I think you probably could have gunned him down if you just auto-aimed and circled him a little while. That would have given those other heavies, the 101, and I think the LPC, a little bit of time to get in there and maybe take you out, but you would have probably got a few more hits in on those guys. There you go. You know, what can I say? Sometimes you're just going to be presented with games like that. The only thing I would say that, and you already covered it, if you had got back in there and lit that WZ fast enough and got 3 guys in the cap and were able to hold with 3 guys in the cap, you might have stolen a cap win out of that. But based on the way your team played, and specifically the guys who were near the cap and kind of wandered up there, I don't think they had the wherewithal or the brains to know that that's what had to happen. They were just driving to the cap because the cap is shiny, and that's what you do at certain levels of skill. So there you go, man. There you go. I wish I had a magic bullet for you. I don't think you really necessarily expected one, but I think it'll be a good discussion for everybody in the forum and for down in the comments. So let me know what you guys think. Oh, I didn't see Treeburst is. I always have to do this. Anonymous. Got it at the end. All right, man. Thanks for sending those in. I appreciate it. Appreciate everybody else coming. Support of the channel. If you're looking for other ways to do so, you can find those down in the description. That's all I've got for today, guys. We will see ya.